Hi everyone, it's Jean. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping in today. I'm just doing a little bit of prep work for some vintage images. I had read recently, I'm not exactly sure where, about a rusting technique. Now, years ago, when I would make things that were primitive, I would rust things like nails and screws and washers and safety pins and paper clips. And that was a totally different process because you're actually dealing with metal in that case. Whereas in this case, we're dealing with paper. So the process itself, as far as making it look grungy and rustic, I printed out these images, these little labels from Graphics Fairy. She has some free labels that or free images, tons of free images on her site. But I really like these because they're French labels, and I have some projects that I'm doing right now with a more shabby chic pink and roses and peonies kind of design that I thought these labels would look really cute. So all you see here is where I've cut them out, and I made just a half a cup of instant coffee. And as I cut them out, I just dropped them in the coffee. So the length of time that they actually stayed in the coffee was just the time that it took me to finish cutting them all out. Now, I would imagine it would be good, depending on the coloration that you would like to get, to at least leave these in for, I would say, 10 minutes maybe, and that way you'll get a nice coloration. So let me get a scrap piece of paper here, and I'm just going to lay this over here on the side. I have a lot of stuff on my desk, so pardon me. So what I have here is I have some sugar, I have some cinnamon, and in this I have instant coffee, sugar, and cinnamon that I mix together. So these are damp, they're still wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some of this on, and it may, because I have the coffee in here, it may not turn out exactly as I planned, but we'll see. They're going to smell good, that's for sure. But the nice thing about, or one of the things that helps this to work really well is the fact that you are putting the sugar on it. So the sugar is going to cause the coffee and the cinnamon to kind of stick to the labels, and that's why you need to have some sugar, because if you don't, it seems that it just wants to wipe right off. So let me pick these up, and I'm just going to take my hands and kind of rub some of it on here so that it comes out looking a little bit rusty or primitive. Now, to me, rust sometimes, depending on, I guess, what item is actually rusted, it does have a little bit of a red tinge to it. But this, with the cinnamon, and the other things that I used. The rest is not quite as red. So here's one that I'm satisfied with right here. So what I did basically was took whatever I have laying here on the tray and kind of smoothed it out. So let me lay this one out because it'll take them a little bit to dry. I don't have my heat gun with me to have them dry, but you should still be able to get the general effect. Now, someone may be asking, what am I going to do with this? Because it's obviously a, you know, the sugar and the cinnamon and the coffee is on top of the label. What I'm going to do after these are dry is I'm going to take some gel medium and go over these. And the gel medium that I have is matte, so it should not affect, I don't like the brilliant effect. So it should allow for it not only to keep the resting material that we're using from falling off, but it should also allow us to cover that and seal it. So when you do this, it's good to do it once it's dried. Otherwise, it's going to be so bumpy, it'll be hard to brush over. So now you can do this if you don't want to make a mess with your hands. You can do this probably with a paintbrush as well. I just feel that I have more control using my hands. And I think they're going to come out really cute. You can do this with any kind of label, any kind of like tag you have, or like a tag topper, or what do they call that? A tab. So if you have any tabs, you can do this as well. And I don't know that I would necessarily call this rusty, or if I would just call it kind of grunge. And another thing I was thinking about these is you could definitely put them in the oven and dry them that way. They might curl up a little bit and you may have to iron them if that's something that bothers you. But for the most part, you could get away with just leaving them as is. Once they dry, they may curl up some. So if that happens and I don't like that look, what I'll do is I'll just put it in a book overnight and let them, or for a couple days, overnight probably will be fine, and just have that flatten them out a little bit. But I love the way that the coffee really helps to give it that grungy, rusty look. Some of them are going to have more on it than others. And one of the things you'll notice too is it kind of, I used cardstock for this. I would suggest a heavier paper if you have it to print your labels out on, because if you don't, they're going to tear whenever you are smoothing out and pressing in the flour and the coffee and the cinnamon. And then if your mixture is not too wet over here, or you could just let it dry out, I'm sure that you can save this in a little bottle to use for the next time you want to rest up some images or some You know, you can rust up anything really with this process. This one I think needs to have a little bit more off of it. Let me wipe my hands and then I'll take some more off of that one. I was a little bit anxious about doing the process, but honestly, I think they came out really good. I really like them, and I'm going to see if I have some other things that I can use as well. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of just brushing off most of what's loose and then just leaving on you know, what's left over, because you can definitely feel the sugar, and it's the sugar that makes the rusting process makes them look like that. So give me 1 second, and I'm gonna look here and see if I have any other labels. I think I printed some oh, let me look. Now, these are tabs that also came from Graphics Fairy, which I don't think I would actually rust those up. But what might look interesting is if you have some photos that are kind of black and white, they might be interesting, because I was talking in one of my videos, I think, about the vintage tintypes. And if you have an image that you like that's kind of on that old vintage style, like their dresses and the men with their top hats and watches, those would look really good rusted up as well. So while I'm doing this process, I'm going to do some more. So these are just one sheet, and honestly, it doesn't take very long to do them. It's just the cutting out process. So I'm going to see if I have any more labels that I can cut out, and if I don't, I might be able to make some really quick. But that is the basic process. So if you want to make some rusty looking labels and you've been wanting those for your projects, you can check on Graphics Fairy. They do have a tutorial. And honestly, I think that you could probably get away without using the cinnamon, because if you use instant coffee, the instant coffee grounds, as it starts to get dry, will cause some of these darker looks that you see on the labels. Let me just hold these up. Hopefully I can hold them up without them falling. They're not very heavy, but they're still a little wet. So you can see the crystallization there of the sugar, and they are going to be sticky. So that's why you have to cover them with either Mod Podge or cover them with something like, Mod Podge, or like I said, the gel medium would be great. I would prefer a matte. You can use whatever style you want. Also, I'm going to take just a quick minute, because I've been mentioning this several times. One of the projects that I'm working on is creating a Photomatic style tag or insert that you can put in your journals. And I had been mentioning to you about my mom and dad and how they had gone with my two brothers back in probably the late, let's see, 11 and a half, probably right around the 63, 68, somewhere around there. But here is a picture of my mom and dad. And this is when they were first married. And I just love this picture because my parents were married for over 50 years, and they were very happily married. Like any couple, they had their ups and downs, but my mom really loved my dad, and my dad loved my mom. So it's a really heartwarming picture that I printed out so that I would have this, and I'll probably use it in a project one day soon. But I just wanted to show you this. And then, of course, my grungy labels. I do have some labels over here that I made myself. And they just have words on them. They're not French. So if I may cut these out and do them too, because labels are wonderful to use in your projects. But sometimes if you only have a... what do I want to say? If you have only big ones, you sometimes need one that's a smaller size. So this has one that's this small, but I'm thinking if I cut these and do these while I'm here too, then we can see how these turn out as well. So that's all I wanted to show you, just a quick little tutorial for you to maybe on a rainy day or one of your days where you need to spark your creativity, to get out some instant coffee and some sugar. If you don't have the cinnamon, that's fine. Like I said, I think they look good. They don't need the cinnamon, but that's up to you. And make yourself half a cup of coffee, and then just dunk your labels in there, and then take them out while they're wet, and get all your goodies on top and spread that out with your fingers, and then dry these, cover them with the gel medium, and you'll have some beautiful labels. So I'll come back and let you know what they look like after I've applied the gel medium. It's a little bit warmer here now, so hopefully it won't take quite as long to dry, or I'm afraid to use a heat gun or a heat tool on them because I'm afraid it might melt the sugar, and then that might cause a terrible mess. So let me just let these dry and come back and show you, and I hope you all have a great evening. Thanks for stopping in. Bye.